Hey guys. A patron directed me to this article on the Call-In show this week, and even though I don't trust the Huffington Post, before I read it, I was still skeptical that they would take this position because it's just so ridiculous. Here are the world's most dangerous countries for women right now. The US is the only Western country to make the Thomson Reuters Foundation's list. Yeah, I'm sure that the US is one of the world's most dangerous nations for women. That sounds totally true. Let's dig into this. A new list of the top 10 most dangerous countries for women includes a few surprising places. The Thomson Reuters Foundation this week published its results of a survey of 550 global experts on women's issues conducted between March 26th and May 4th. The experts took into account the countries that have high rates of violence against women, a lack of economic resources, healthcare issues, and traditions that perpetuate strict gender roles. India topped the list as the most dangerous country for women right now. The country has seen an uptick in sexual violence against women in the past decade, including the 2012 fatal gang rape of a 23-year-old woman in Delhi. More recently, the country was in uproar after an 8-year-old girl was gang raped and murdered by 8 men in India's Jammu and Kashmir state in April. Reuters says the country earned the top spot on its list for 3 reasons: the risk women face from sexual violence and harassment, from cultural and traditional practices, and from human trafficking included forced labor, sex slavery, and domestic servitude. The only Western country to make the list was the U.S. at number 10. According to Reuters, the U.S. appears on the list because of the rampant sexual violence American women face, such as rape, sexual harassment, coercion into sex, and a lack of access to justice in rape cases. The survey was conducted after the Me Too movement had gone viral in the U.S. Ah, there it is. Sexual harassment in Hollywood is the culprit. So banging some old rich director for a role and complaining about it 20 years later when your career has gone down the tubes is totally the same thing as getting gang raped to death by an angry mob in India. Got it. Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, and Saudi Arabia took the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th spots on the list, respectively. Reuters notes that many of the countries on the list, such as Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, number 7, and Nigeria, number 9, are still recovering from years of civil war, which puts women at higher risks. The U.S. and Syria tied for 3rd place in a ranking of the most dangerous countries for women in terms of sexual violence. In the U.S., someone is sexually assaulted every 98 seconds, and 90% of adult victims of rape are female. In 2012, the UN reported that rape was being used as a weapon of war in Syria. Currently, ISIS militants have taken thousands of Yazidi women and Syrian girls as sex slaves. It is so absurd that America would tie with Syria in terms of danger for women that it made me think that there were quite literally no objective criteria by which these supposed experts made these ranking decisions. So I went back to look at the original Reuters article to see if I was right, and alas, I was. The Thomson Reuters Foundation's survey of about 550 experts on women's issues ranked war-torn Afghanistan and Syria in 2nd and 3rd place, with Somalia and Saudi Arabia next. The survey was a repeat of a similar poll in 2011, which ranked the most dangerous countries for women as Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Pakistan, India, and Somalia. It asked which 5 of the 193 UN member states were most dangerous for women and the worst for healthcare, economic resources, traditional practices, sexual and non-sexual abuse, and human trafficking. So what you're saying is they just randomly asked some experts of women's issues which countries were worst in a variety of immeasurable, unquantifiable categories. Then a bunch of leftist media outlets just ran with this story. Let's see what they had to say about the US. Number 10, the United States. The only Western nation in the top 10 and joint 3rd with Syria for the risk women face in terms of sexual violence, including rape, sexual harassment, coercion into sex, and a lack of access to justice in rape cases. The survey came after the Me Too campaign went viral last year, with thousands of women using the social media movement to share stories of sexual harassment or abuse. This survey was done immediately after Me Too, which clearly tainted the results, and sexual harassment was used as a measure which was weighted equally with rape. This is what happens when you get women to collect data for you. They use women's feelings as expressed on Twitter as a proxy for aggregate data. Just for comparison, let's check out what they said about number 9, Nigeria. Nigeria ranked as 9th, with human rights groups accusing the country's military of torture, rape, and killing civilians during a 9-year fight with Boko Haram militants. Nigeria was named the 4th most dangerous country along with Russia when it came to human trafficking. It listed 6th worst on the risks women face from traditional practices: rape, torture, and sexual enslavement. Yet the U.S. ranks closely behind Nigeria, because Twitter says so. CBS and a variety of other news outlets ran with this crazy story. HuffPo proudly tweeted these as legitimate findings. But as we discussed, there really were no findings, so I set out to uncover how dangerous the US really is for women compared to other countries. Let's have some measurable standards, shall we? None of this sexual harassment, traditional roles BS. I think the best measure of female safety would be rape and murder, so let's start there. In terms of rape, this is data from the UN itself, which of course calls into question the validity of the former survey even more. The global rape statistics are sparse. This set that we'll discuss in a moment is from 2010, and in third world countries especially, rapes go unreported all the time. If you're going to report a rape, you have to trust that your law enforcement and government will do something about it. If they aren't going to prosecute white murders in South Africa, for example, they also aren't going to care if you're raped, so why even bother going to the police? This is the case for most corrupt governments. Nonetheless, this data is somewhat useful. When I was looking into rape statistics, I was seeing that the US was pretty high on the list for several sources. In addition to the lack of reporting because of the absence of prosecution in many, if not most, third world countries, this UN data did shed a bit of light on why this is. Southern Africa, Oceania, and North America have the highest recorded rape rates, Asia the lowest. The differences between the regions are large. The comparability between the regions is limited because many figures from developing countries are from older surveys. No data were provided for Southern Africa in the most recent crime trend survey. The differences between the rape rates of individual countries are large in the highest quartile, figure 5, which we'll talk about in a second. This indicates that the definition of rape is likely to be broader in North America. For instance, in Canada, Canada's comment in the metadata, data includes sexual assaults, i.e. any physical sexual contact, includes touching with a person against their will or without proper consent, and may or may not include sexual intercourse, compared to the European countries. And even considering these massive caveats that there's a widened definition in Western nations, in Canada, getting a pat on the tush is recorded the same way as being violently gang raped, and that there is an absence of data from third world countries, the UN still found the US to be much safer than the Huffington Post claims. Still, I'm not buying this because I am 1000% sure that the US does not have more rapes per capita than Mexico, where the age of consent is 12 and where 80% of women crossing the border are raped. If they can't get a standard definition or uniform data collection method, this is all potentially worthless, but I couldn't pass up an opportunity to use their own data against them, and it does explain some of the misconceptions. There are similar problems with homicide statistics, although they are more reliable because there's no self-reporting issue once you find a body. But that doesn't mean that corrupt governments are investigating all homicides or reporting their data honestly. Therefore, I thought a better way to measure the impact on women would be to look at the percentage of homicides that are committed against women in any given nation, rather than the total number of homicides. So this wouldn't mean that women are more or less likely on the whole to get murdered in terms of homicide incidents, rather that of those incidents that occurred, more women were murdered. This is also UN data. Percentage of male and female intentional homicide victims by country or territory in the latest available year. As you can see, there's a disproportionate presence of Asian nations at the top of the list, where more women were murdered in the last available year of data than men. The US is not even in the top 100. The US is 119 of 206 countries or territories in terms of proportion of homicides committed against women. I did throw out a few that had incomplete data, though. So once again, although that doesn't mean you're less likely or more likely to get murdered, it does mean of those murders committed, only 22% in the US were of women. In terms of number of homicides, the US generally is pretty safe compared with other countries. With 2015 UN data, we don't even break into the top 50 for all countries, and that aggregates the US murder rate and combines middle American suburbs with shitholes like Detroit and St. Louis. I obviously think that it's not just a real stretch to say that America is unsafe for women. It's more of an outright lie. But what about in terms of equality and rights? Those are other measures that were used by these UN experts. Before I go into this article, I should mention that I think these measures are stupid. Female happiness is plummeting in Western nations as they're given more power and responsibilities, so all of these measures of gender equality and other garbage seem pointless to me. But this is what the left wants, so let's use their measures. This is from Business Insider, but US News and World Report released the study. Denmark has overtaken Sweden as the best country in the world to live in for women, according to a 2018 ranking from US News and World Report. Ahead of International Women's Day on Thursday, March 8th, the media organization surveyed more than 9,000 women as part of its wider Best Countries ranking in order to determine which of 80 countries around the globe are the best for women to live in. The best countries for women were given a score out of 10 on these 5 attributes: human rights, gender equality, income equality, progress, and safety. Now, what do they have to say about the US? Number 16, the United States. Income inequality is one of the challenges still faced by the US with a score of just 1.4. However, the North American powerhouse manages to be highly progressive, 8.8, with a decent gender equality score, 7.6. Okay, which is it? America is a horrible, unsafe hellhole with the same quality of life for women as those in Syria? Or is it one of the top-ranking feminist utopias in the world? These leftist organizations can't even keep their story straight. Let this be a reminder that there is no endgame for leftists and feminists in terms of women's rights. You can give women true equality of opportunity. You can give them favorable treatment in academia. You can coddle them. The government can subsidize their bad life decisions. You can even help them rip apart their families, get custody of their children, and take all of their husband's assets for any reason or no reason at all. It doesn't really matter. They will take and take and take. And even when your country has a feminist government that spends all of its time and energy pandering to women, they will still say it's a hostile patriarchy and is just as bad as a third world nation where there are actual rape gangs and women are their husband's property under law. Do we really want women to have more power and influence? I'm a woman and I don't. We simply have gone too far, and we will run these countries into the ground if you let us. Thanks for watching, and just another reminder that there will be no call-in show on the 4th of July. I'm taking off until July 9th for my wedding and my honeymoon, so thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate the break. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.